How's it going, everyone? Back with another video today where I'm going over a league that I played off stream of Pioneer, Abzan, Midrange. And I know the most recent video I put on YouTube was of Abzan. This video is going over a list that I want to give credit to Mark and Lloyd in my Discord, who have been doing really well with this Abzan list, actually. So, um, the core of it is the same. I made some minor tweaks to the mana base and to the sideboard of what they've been working on. But the main core is, of course, we have for Thoughtseize, Fatal Push, Monster Dread Knight, Sentinels. But I mostly copied their, their removals with Get Lost. They're running some spicy stuff like Malaria the Living Cure that, you can exile it and you can, essentially just like scam another creature back into play. They try to kill like a siege rhino or something. Another spicy white card is Nadaar. That's worth splashing for. I think this card is a really really cool addition to the deck into the mid range strategy of where it's an ETB venture into a dungeon, and we can get into more of that in terms of the mechanic. But essentially, the fact that this is just another effect that gains value immediately and when it attacks, similar to Sentinel on the nameless ability, has vigilance as well, and it's really really decent. So on top of that, there's 4 siege rhinos, and the mana base incorporates a lot more utility lands, way more than I ran in my version. I think that's a really big improvement. I think I barely ran any. Well, this list has like a Beseju still, an Agonjo, a Hive, a Triome, and then 2 cottages or 2 restless manlands, as well as a Takanuma. So like you still get a lot of mileage out of your utility lands. Excuse me, as I'm still getting over a cold. But you get a lot of mileage out of your mana base. So that's kind of what I was most hesitant on, to kind of see how consistent your mana will be. Because we all know how shaky the mana base in Pioneer can be in comparison to Modern. In the sideboard, the white tools that we get added are like a 1-up Deafening Silence against Lotus Field and Izzet Phoenix. Reading I really, really personally like against Rakdos Sacrifice. I know this my overlay is covering the right side, but Valkyria is a card that I really like against Sacrifice, because whenever a damage is dealt to you or source you control, it just prevents 1 of a damage. So it essentially nullifies Mayhem Devil. We have 2 rips for Izzet Phoenix, and then I really like Wedding Announcement as a way to outgrind, the mid-range control matchups. Essentially, kind of like a replacement to Random Realm Breaker in Abzan. So I really appreciate all the support and all the activity that's going on in the Discord. And for this video, as I'm doing this voiceover, because this is just a replay, I apologize as my voice is I'm still getting over that cold. So please bear with me, and hope you guys can enjoy the video and let me know what you think of this list. So this is match 1, game 1 here, and of course we have our Giganthan. I'm gonna try really hard not to forget the companion. And I think right off the bat, it's nice that we have all our colors online. We're against a Hall of Fountain deck. This could be Spirits or Blue White Control. So I'm airing on the side of Blue White Control. Just start with the Dread Whispers, draw another Monster Dread Knight. This is kind of key to the matchup here. Them playing a tapped Hall of Fountain's kind of nice, because that means they're not holding up any counter magic. And I'm just gonna slam a Sentinel because it's the most mana efficient. Because from there, if they don't do anything, we can go Dread Whispers until summoning another Dread Knight. So we're gonna attack first and kind of go with that game plan here. They didn't counter the Dread Whisper, so we're just kind of trying to like outgrind an opponent at a card advantage. They Supreme Verdict here, which is unfortunate, but we just Dread Whispers and continue to gain value. As you can see, like we still have a stocked hand in its turn 5 thanks to Monster Dread Knight. I opted to map here just to get the value, and then they Wandering Emperor, of course, which is kind of unfortunate. But then we just kind of just redeploy our threats here. I just kind of just Dread Whispers again, and then just keep just trying to submit multiple threats to the side to the board. The temporary lockdown is kind of annoying, but we do have this Get Lost that we can kind of destroy, and this is kind of what's cool about this Get Lost, is it can tag Planeswalkers and enchantments. This is something that's like comparable to Assassin's Trophy. Again, and even comparable to Abrupt Decay. Vantage Inverse is kind of cool because we got to end step tag a temporary lockdown, and then just commit more to the side to the board here. Then we put Gigantha in hand. I could have like shocked the land and then put Giganta, but I didn't want to submit more to the board. I feel like we'd have 3 threats, so like if they submit a like cast a Warning Emperor, it's not too bad. So we get another Get Lost, which is nice. And then when here we just activate the Fortress, which is kind of cool because it essentially keeps draining for 2, so it puts a lot of pressure on our opponent. So if they do like anything here, we can just slam Sleeves Rhino here, and then this will um, you know, really pressure the life total. But we have the Fatal Push for the Shark token, and then that's the game. Match 1, game 2. We have our pretty nice curve out here. We have all our mana online, all our colors. It's nice to see that even with these pathways, we can keep all of our colors still. We have a nice curve of duress into 2-drop into 3 into 4 into if we draw a 4th land. Unfortunately, like I always kind of like taper like between duress and Thoughtseize. I think in the control matchup, it kind of doesn't really matter. If they're on like the Lotus Field version, I can see opting for Thoughtseize first, just to tag like that 2-drop that turns off ETB effects, and essentially because they go 2-drop into Lotus Field. But I think that's kind of like a minor nitpick in terms of like the lines. I think like this version we didn't really see any Lotus Fields game 1, so I can see like leading on duress, and then if they have stuff like Dream Trawler or something that I want to Thoughtseize later, that's where the Thoughtseize comes in. But I think at this point it doesn't really impact the flow of the game. In this hand, our opponent's hand is pretty bad. They have Verdict and Teferi, so I just took the Verdict, and I could always Thoughtseize Teferi later on. So they play the Fielder on, and we'll play Melira, and then this is where they actually change the equation. I think this is the only time I ever actually cast in Melira this league, unfortunately. I really want to get more data on it, because it's a 2-mana 3/3, which is really strong. We top deck one of the best cards in the matchup of Wedding Announcement, as long as they don't top deck a Get Lost. So as long as we, you know, as long as they don't have the Get Lost, we just commit multiple bodies to the battlefield. We Thoughtseize the Teferi. They have only lands in hand, which is really nice. So like we just Thoughtseize their whole land away. I mean, they kept 2 spells, 5 lands, which is not ideal. And this is where we actually triggered a the Wedding Announcement. We actually got to draw a card, and I cast the Nadaar here, and I actually think I cast the wrong dungeon. I misclicked here. We can go over this later, but this dungeon has I gain 1 life, you scry 1, then you make a treasure, and then like this is definitely the higher upside if we keep attacking with the Nadaar, but I don't think we'll ever get to that point where we get to draw 3 and we cast 1. So I think usually cast the Mine dungeon. But regardless, we're just still a lot of pressure, still a lot of value that we're getting. We get to scry 1 and we get the treasure, which is actually kind of notable here. Making the treasure is actually really important because they fielded us once. And if they field us again and they field our Blooming Marsh away, we actually only have 1 basic, which is the basic swamp. So that's something that I'm keeping an eye on, like how many basics do we really need if we really want a basic forest or a basic plains. So this is a spot here that's actually really interesting, where they we have all these like vigilance threats here, right? So it actually makes things really awkward for our opponent when they cast stuff like Wandering Emperor, because they can't exile their big threats, and then if they want to like spend their loyalty counters on a human, it's like whatever. As we keep getting value, right, we get this treasure. So like now if they want to use Field of Ruin, we still have access to green mana. And this is what's hilarious, is because they actually, activate a man land to block the 2/2. We cast Siege Runner to put them to 2, and then they cast this Wandering Emperor, and it's just hilarious because they just make bodies, and we just eventually just go wide, which is awesome. Especially because the Rhino with Trample, so like a 5/6 Trample thanks to the Wedding Festivity is just really, really nice. So that's the cool thing about Siege Rhino, is like compared to like Shieldred, is like usually like in this matchup, like the Shieldred eats like a Get Lost or a March or whatever. But when this Siege Run ETBs and then they answer the Siege Run like a Verdict, it's nice that it's just like an actual way to drain 3 off the bat. So it puts our deck into a little bit more of an aggressive slant, and our opener like Thoughtseize, Melira, Sentinel, Nadaar, Siege Rhino. We cast the Wedding Festivity, I think, or Wedding Announcement on turn 3. So like We're just constantly applying pressure, and like this kind of definitely favors matchups where you just want to end the game, and that's what the control matchup is. So we're definitely the aggro matchup. So off to a 1-0 start, which is really nice. Match 2, game 1. Our opening hand had 6 lands and a Dramoka's command, so we're just gonna mull in that. This hand's again nice that we have a hive and then 2 green white sources, so our mana has been pretty online, which is nice. They Thoughtseize or Sentinel. We just play a Razor Red Thicket, hold up, get lost if they want to play a 2-drop. I'm not sure if this is like Abzan Grease Fang. This looks like Grease Fang, kind of off the top. So we just play the Sentinel and they go for the third because they obviously took the Sentinel because, you know, they Thoughtseize it. So here we draw our own Thoughtseize. They have a Glissa, we have a Get Lost for the Glissa, they have a Canker Bloom and a Sentinel. So instead of just like playing a chump blocker and be able to remove a spell plus a Glissa attack, I'm just gonna Thoughtseize and then Get Lost to Glissa. So now they have a Sentinel, and then we have a Get Lost to follow up. Wish we had a land here so that we can at least map this Nadaar. But here, I'm going to do the correct dungeon is the Lost Mine, where we scry first, and then we can get a 1/1 or a treasure, and then, you know, this is the quickest way to actually gain the actual card advantage, just drawing a card. So I meant to do this in the previous in the game, but there they top deck the Scoos, which is really bad for us because like they're just kind of overloading or removal. I put the map on the Nadaar, we drew a land. So this is where they tap out for Scoos, and I decide to Get Lost here because I don't want them to have an easy way to trigger a Revolt. Because I want them to actually spend the map here, which I'm not entirely convinced that they will, right? So they end up doing it anyway, but it's just one of those things where I want to for sure make sure that they actually are forced to do something, like actually trigger Revolt versus just doing it on my turn. That might have been a mistake, because now they just attack with a huge Sentinel, and now we're just completely dead because they just attack. I Get Lost one, and they just, you know, eat 4 creatures, and then I die. So we're actually against the Rock Mirror, which is actually kind of cool. Their list is, as far as we know, a little bit different. They run a Canker Bloom main, which is interesting. So we'll see how it goes for games 2. Match 2, game 2. We have a pretty interesting hand. As long as we don't Thoughtseize our Monster Dread Knight, this hand is actually pretty decent. Because we just curve out Dread Whispers into Monster Dread Knight into Siege right now into Siege right now. We drew Bankbuster, which is a really good draw. They don't do anything for the first 2 turns, so I think I opted just to play Bankbuster because this isn't a card that just like gets pushed or go for third or anything. So here they Sentinel. So this is where I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I wasn't sure if I was going to Get Lost here or Vanishing Burst. I figured I would just attack. And then kind of like midway through the attack, I decided to take the line of getting the value of Jamoka's command. I think if this was actual Rakdos, I would not take this line. But the fact that, you know, they don't, for as far as I'm concerned, don't really run any, you know, good enchantments. I'd rather get the value that I can out of it, not get blown up by a removal spell, put a counter on the Reckoner Bankbuster, and fight here. So this is where Jamoka's command is an interesting inclusion that I know Mark really likes. This is where Vanish Reverse is kind of awkward against Glissa, but luckily we top deck the Get Lost. So we just attack with the Monster Dread Knight and get value out of the Bankbuster. They top deck another Glissa, which is awkward, and then they mill the Thoughtseize. So we're gonna, you know, get out of this Bankbuster. This is where I'm just going to play Siege right now, pressure our opponent, and then hold a Fatal Push. My initial plan is to chump block the Glissa and then push it and get value by Dread Whisper right. Here they, you know, have Revolt and push. Siege right now, I'll just push the Glissa back. Now we just attack with his Monster Gen Knight. My moto is kind of a little slow there. Come on. I think moto is kind of taking on what happens here. But then here I opt to, I believe I played the Sentinel here, and I either hold a Vanishing Verse or Reckoner Bankbuster. They throat my Sentinel here. And they Liliana my Monster Gen Knight. Or they actually plus here, which is interesting. I opt to keep the Siege Rhino in hand, just because I can kind of... they're so close. I mean, I was just trying to win the game here. And this is where I could have Get Losted my Monster Dread Knight and then crew the Bing Buster and attacked. Or I could just attack, get the 1 damage and a trample, and then Siege Rhino for the win. So I posted this on Twitter. This is where this is the first time I actually got to cast the Siege Rhino for the win in a very, very, very long time. Match 2. Game 3, we're on the draw now, so it's going to be a little bit more harder. Again, it's nice that we have all our colors online. This game, they actually have the Thoughtseize for our Dread Knights for hand is going to be a little bit worse. Now we just have 2 removal spells, but they don't commit anything to the board on turn 2. We draw our best sideboard card for this matchup. Hopefully they don't have another follow-up Thoughtseize. But they play a Scavenging Ooze and miss the 3rd land drop, which is clutch. So we just push the Scoos, untap, play this winning announcement, and then we drew the Dread Whisperers, so if they have Thoughtseize that, now we just Dread Whisperers, make it 3-2, and just trying to draw our opponent out a card advantage. They hit the 3rd land, but didn't do anything. So they abrupt decay the winning announcement, unfortunately. But we did get that 2-for-1, get the 1-1 human here. And they're going to crack the map here. So now, I think we're kind of behind, so we're just going to try to end the game here. Just going to get lost, attack for 4, keep the push, next turn we can attack, make a treasure, and then have a trigger for a Volt. And they just end up conceding to this Nadaar, which is hilarious. I'm assuming they just maybe had no real threat, or maybe they have, you know, a double green card that I'm not really sure of. But this is where we just apply a lot of pressure. We can, if they, for some reason, don't do anything, I would just animate the Hive and attack for 10. Get a Goblin here and, you know, just accrue value. So this is where the winning announcement looked great. We just 2-for-1 them, 2-for-1 them, and then we're getting value here too. So this is where the Nadaar looks pretty cool as well. Where we get to kind of outgrind the BGX mirror here. So 2-0. Match 3, game 1. We have a pretty solid hand outside of the fact that we don't have a green source. So this is where our mana is really tested. But, you know, leading on Thoughtseize into a Dreadware service and trying to hit a 3rd land, and ideally being a green source, this is where we really get tested with, you know, a 3-color mana base in this format. Here we see a hand where it's Izzet Phoenix, and they have 2 Pickpocket Pranksters and 2 Ledger Shredders that are considered. So their hand is very, very, very Thoughtseize proof, unfortunately. I take a Shredder here, and I think I just misplayed. They played the Steam Vents, and I think on my turn, I should have just Thoughtseize the other Shredder. But I ended up just playing this Bank Buster instead, which I think was just like the absolutely wrong play. I think I just take the Shredder, and then hopefully they just whiff all these Pranksters. The other option is I take both Pranksters with Thoughtseize, but then we just can't ever kill these Shredders. But I think doing like the Thoughtseize and then not using Thoughtseize and the Shredder after, I think it was just like a huge punt that I made. So, which is unfortunate here. So then here, I think I'm just like trying to dig for like a Graveyard Trespasser. I don't have Scavenging Ooze in this list, but I think that was like my mindset with this Bank Buster. But I don't think that's kind of like the way we win the game here. And then here I was like, I need to answer the Shredder. I could have Thoughtseized and then like maybe like Dread Whispers here, and that's probably like the better line. So I think this game, I think I just took every worst line possible, because I probably could have Thoughtseized, like, and then they Pickpocket Prankster here, probably in response. They get to trigger the Shredder. They discard a Pickpocket Prankster. And then they bring Lightning Axe to hand, so they have Lightning Axe, and they get to do all this stuff. But, like, at least, like, if I had just Thoughtseize the Shredder, at least I could take the Shredder. And then they just found a Cruise, and I just end up conceding this game. So this is where I just kind of, because they have 2 Phoenixes now, so I think this is where I just kind of literally probably took every worst line possible, unfortunately. Match 3, game 2. We ended up mulliganing here. because I think our opening hand just didn't really have the tools to beat our opponent. And this is where our mana is kind of awkward. We have a tap black source. We can't Thoughtseize on one. I don't think it's that critical in this matchup, but it is very important for us to Thoughtseize on turn 2. I slam take the Sahili, so their hand is just Spell Pierce, Opt, and Fire Impulse. And this is where I think I just punted here. Sorry, I think I punted next turn where I just play the Sentinel. They opt in response, which is fine. And then they play. So we know they have a Spell Pierce here. So like I know this get lost. And then I attack, and then I play this Bank Buster into this known Spell Pierce, and I think that was just entirely incorrect. I should just like let it go, and then either hold up, get lost, or crack the map. But just playing into the Spell Pierce was just so bad for me, because now they just Lightning Axe, and then they just cruise, which is like the worst possible for me. I could have also even just like craft the map again just to get it out of Lightning Axe range, and I think that was just again like just every worst play I could have made possible this match. I think I did. Luckily we drew the 4th land, cast a Siege Rhino, so now it's just a race between Siege Rhino versus Arclean Mix. They end up not blocking. I Thoughtseize here, and it's between Sleight of Hand and Fire Impulse. I end up taking the Fire Impulse because I don't want them to trade Phoenix or Siege Rhino, and I think that's correct. And then I play the land and pass. So they just play multiple cantrips, bring back the Phoenix. And so there's like Spell Pierce Unknown in hand. So I Thoughtseize again. So they have a Braid's Pickpocket Prankster. I take the Pickpocket Prankster because I think that's like their best card. Leave the Braid and then kill the Phoenix and just attack, so then the Braid is kind of useless. I don't know if this is being results oriented based on like what happens here, because I just feel like Picklock Prankster is a card that really gets them out of the game. They Picklock Prankster, get like Treasure Cruise, right? Whereas just like a Braid's kind of technically dead, right? And I'm trying to like just end the game. So like a Braid is kind of rotting in their hand unless they draw like another burn spell. So this is where it gets kind of awkward too, because like I also get lost at their Phoenix, and then they just drew the 6th land or 7th land, so now they can activate Hall, and I literally can't attack anymore. So now we're kind of just like staring at each other, which is like not what we want to do. No, not what we want to do. Fortunately, I draw a land. And that opponent draws a Brotherhood's End into an Abrade, which is very, very unfortunate. And now this Extinction Menace is running in her hand. Now they can kind of, next turn get in with the Hall. We draw unfortunately, another land here. Here they probably top deck their best spell in a Picklock Prankster. They choose Picklock Prankster. Cast another Picklock Prankster, free the Fae, and then cast a Treasure Cruise, and then bring a Phoenix back. We do have this Extinction event, which is nice. So this is kind of how we can maybe potentially crawl back, i.e. for even. Get rid of that Phoenix for good. And then I play Nadaar, Venture the Mine. I scry, put the fortress to the bottom, so we'll just another land that's on top, unfortunately. So hopefully we can, try to get there with this Nadaar. They do have, since they still spent the Braid, they hard cast a Phoenix, cast a Picklock Prankster, and this is where this was kind of a very unfortunate moment here, where they cracked the map on the Picklock Prankster and found a spell. We really need them to hit a land, so then that we can attack with this Goblin Mine, and at least try to pressure them. If they don't block, Siege Rhino becomes lethal off the top, but we just drew this Deafening Signs. But this is where that was kind of like a moment where everything was kind of going wrong for us this game, where we just top deck 2 lands, and then when they cracked the map, they got to chump block for free. I'm playing this Deafening Silence, and then they bounce the Brazen Borrower. They have a bunch of flyers in the air. They activate this Hall. This is lethal, and I'm hellbent. I have to chump block the Hall now. So this is where they could have blocked We drew a removal spell, which is nice, but we're just kind of in a spot where we are, playing to not lose, right? Which is not what you want to be. So I ended up losing this haul. We go to 1. So there aren't that many outs that we have here. You don't know really any outs we have because like Siege Rhino isn't live. I guess we have another extinction event. That is our out. Is there another second extinction event that is out here, but we did not draw it. So, which we lost his match. So we're currently 2-1. Match 4, game 1. We have a pretty solid opening hand. Thoughtseize into either or 2 drops into Sentinel. Here we Thoughtseize. We're against blue-white control again. And their hand is Absorb, March, Dovin's Veto, and a temporary lockdown. I ended up taking the lockdown just because we have so many 2s that I'd rather do that because it's technically their way of 2 for winning. Since they have the veto here, I'm going to cast this Melira. And then they missed the third land drop, which is clutch. They're still holding up the veto though, so I'm just going to slam a Sentinel here. So we got 3 damage off a 2-drop. It's pretty nice. They march and exile their veto. They missed a third land drop again, which is very unfortunate. So now we just attack with this Melira. I think I shock in this Temple Garden. I don't. They Dovin's Veto, so the second one. So I shock it in and just play another Dread Whispers to just try to outgrind him again. With 4 cards in hand. They're missing the third land drop, unfortunately, and that's kind of like the story of the game here. So I'm going to Monster Gen Knight, crack a map, play the Hive, and we just are... Opponent, unfortunately, just couldn't do anything this game. They have an Absorb that's just rotting in their hand. All Thoughtseize, and they just concede to the Thoughtseize just to conceal information, I'm sure. Match 4, game 2, on the draw against blue-white control. Our hand is, again, pretty solid. We Thoughtseize, Monster Gen Knight, Sentinel. We drew a Get Lost, have all our color sources. Here the hand is Shark Typhoon, Get Lost, and Absorb. I take the Absorb because I don't want them to counter any of my spells. If they want to Get Lost any of our creatures, I'm perfectly fine with that. And I Dread Whispers here because I don't want them to absorb my Monster Dread Knight. I want them to kill it. Here I cast a Sentinel. They draw another Absorb. I kind of lost track, unfortunately, what lands to play. I'm assuming they just did this. I'm going to play a Monster Dread Knight. They cycle a Shark Typhoon. They still have this Get Lost in hand. But Yorion in hand. And I attack here. And this is where I Sentineled. And then I feel like I should have cracked my map here on my Monster Gen Knight, knowing they have this Get Lost, because that way they're kind of incentivized to get lost this Monster Dread Knight, but they end up just like get losting my Sentinel here. So I think that's where I probably should have taken the more aggressive line. Here they Shark Typhoon, which is an interesting line. I attack. I have both Besage You and Get Lost here, so I just Siege Rhino their Shark Typhoon and then cast a Siege Rhino. So their Shark Typhoon is gone. Here they cycle. And then they get rid of all of my map tokens, unfortunately, that they gave us. So I attack with the Siege Rhino. And this is where we just get aggressive with more Siege Rhinos. I know this is what all y'all wanted to see. Here they get lost. And then they're going to take this cool line of Yorioning. And then temporary lockdown. Exiling all my map tokens. But the cool thing here is I get to also do the same thing. And I get to get lost my Yorion with this trigger on the stack. Their map tokens also get exiled. And then I just animate the Restless Cottage or Hive of the Eye Tyrant attack for lethal here. So this is where the 6 damage from the Siege Rhino definitely added up this match. And, this is where Shielded would also be nice. But they also got to get lost the first Siege Rhino, so really Shielded really only done 2 damage, 4 damage, whereas Siege Rhino definitely got to close the door a lot faster. You know, if they get another draw step, they have a haul like they can block with. So it'll be interesting. With more data if the siege runner really bears weight. But in this match, it's where we are the aggressive deck. We play the aggressive role. Having multiple siege rhinos is definitely beneficial. And I think that's the mistake I also made in the previous version of Abzan that I played that's on YouTube. I think I only played 3 siege rhinos, and it's definitely a card that like it's definitely better in multiples, as they always say. And as I'm drawing multiple, this is where it really pressures our opponent. So it's nice to see that we are 3-1 going into the last match of the league. Match 5, last match of the league, game 1. We have an opening hand. We have 2 3-drops and 5 lands. I think I opt to mulligan this hand. So we mull in a 6, bottom of land, have all the color sources online. We do curve out in a sense if we, can. Our opponent is a little bit more aggressive where we push into verse into trespasser. Here we just here we're playing against Packrat, which is really interesting because it's like a mono black deck. I just push end step, trespasser, eat it, get on board. They play Copter and Thoughtseize, which is really interesting. And this is where this is kind of a blind spot where if the Vantage Reverse doesn't tag Copter, and Dromoka's command does tag it if we still have this Trespasser in play. But if they do have a way to destroy it, then we can't answer the Smuggler's Copter, unfortunately. Here, our opponent Bitter Triumphs. They discard a card, so we get the value off the graveyard Trespasser, and this is what I'm talking about, where we don't have a creature. So we have 2 removal spells and can't answer the Copter, which is really awkward. Here we top deck a Siege Rhino. Opponent's already at 7 life after a Trespasser trigger, a Trespasser attack, 2 from Thoughtseize, and then 3 from Bitter Triumph. So 2, 5, 6, 9, and 12. There's a lot of damage that our opponent has done to themselves. So we got another also trigger from the Trespasser. So they play Packrat and animate Smuggler's Copter. Luckily, they don't have another land to pitch to this, or another mana source to activate the Packrat. Here I just attack with Siege Rhino, and then I'm just going to Vanishing Verse this Packrat in the past turn. Now I can, cast a Dromoka's command, but they cast a Shieldred. Don't leave a black source for Fatal Push, so I'm assuming they don't have the Fatal Push. Attack of Siege Rhino for the win here. Last match, game 2 on the draw against Mono Black Midrange. I'm not sure if they're like a Waste Not deck, so I don't think they are, because we saw Bloodsoaked Champion and other cards I just don't think, we didn't see any Go Blanks or any Duresses, so I ended up not boarding in this Terra Sunders. I think they're just straight up mono black mid range here. So attack for 2. Play Copter, which is unfortunate. I kind of wanted to push this end step and then cast Trespasser and eat maybe. But this is where they kind of went aggro here. I'm going to push the Copter. They attack for 4. I'm going to shotgun this Godless Shrine and then play this Trespasser, and it's bigger than all of their 2-power creatures. So they animate Mutavault and attack. I just block one of their 2-power creatures. They push, and we gain all this card advantage because they're discarding cards. I have this backup Trespasser, so I can push the Bloodsoaked Champion and eat it with the Trespasser. They slam a Shieldred, and this is where I mistaked. I didn't have a stop on my upkeep. I thought I did in time, but the Shieldred trigger went off. I wanted to upkeep Vanishing Verse, so I'm hoping that this 2 damage does not matter here. I ended up just deciding to just deploy the Dread Knight just because I wanted to be able to block. I just put Gigantha in hand and just play a little more defense. We're at 7 life. I don't think we're in a position to race. I'm just gonna block here. They push, that's fine, because we're still grinding out. I was debating blocking with this Dread Knight, but they can still push, right? So Here we just play this Gigantha, and this is the first time I think I cast Gigantha this league, and I think it's very, very relevant here just because we have a 5 power creature. Otherwise, we would technically be behind on board, right? So here I just like blindly block with the Gigantha. I play it back. It's kind of like a free attack, right? They get both Bloodsoak Champions back. Here, the Gigantha, is a legendary creature, so it makes my Takanuma cheaper. So I can, cycle, channel it, and then I bring back a Trespasser, gain the 2 life back. They Thoughtseize my Vanishing Reverse, which is unfortunate. But now it's like now we're in a fortune that extra body kind of gets us in a situation where like now they're like we're really forcing, blocks here. We're at 10. So now even if they top deck a land and attack for 7, like we're still in a safe spot. And then we just unfortunately keep drawing lands, but like I said, this extra body that we gain for Gigantha is very clutch. And we ended up winning the match. And these champions do not block. And we ended up 4-1ing this league with Abzan, which is awesome here. So final thoughts on the list. I think so far the mana base has been not too harmful, knock on wood. There was that one game where we didn't have a green source in opening hand, but we did draw into it. But unfortunately, it didn't matter. We lost the game anyway. The Dromoka's command is kind of awkward. I think this is a really hedge against like Rakdos with Fable and like all the enigmatic decks. So the jury's still out on this card. Nadaar has been impressive. The Vanishing Verse has been decent. The Get Lost has been decent. The Siege Rhinos have actually been more impressive, and then for those that have paid attention to the channel, I am always usually the first to kind of harp on Siege Rhino, but this league Siege Rhino actually felt pretty decent. I'm glad that this mana base has a lot of the utility lands. Beseiju we channeled, a Ganju we had, but we never channeled it, but it's still nice. Got to attack with a Hive. Triumph is nice, just we had all 3 colors online. We got a Cottage and a Fortress. I think we attacked with the Fortress one of the games. We channeled Takanuma. So, like, all those utility lands, I think except -1, we got to utilize, right? So I think that's really, really clutch when building these Pioneer mana bases. I think you do have to be a little bit more greedy. I think my previous iteration had like a bunch of duels, and I think I was just too scared to get color screwed. And I think you have to kind of roll the dice a little bit and hope that, when you have 2-3 opening hand lands in your hand, that you have all your color sources. And we did this league, and that's how we had a successful 4-1. Other sideboard, the winning announcements were fantastic. The Gigantha was very clutch, definitely worth it, I think. I think for like next changes, I think I'm gonna be streaming on Friday, so I'm gonna put Friday's date. I definitely want to get more data on Abzan because this is my baby here. I think the Deafening Silences is a card that I'm not really sure I like. I think this is like a card that has crossover between Izzet Phoenix and Lotus Field, and I think Lotus Field is just unpopular enough where I don't think I need the splash damage. I'd rather just cut the Deafening Silence and add a 3rd Rest in Peace. I really like this Redain on paper. I know we didn't play against Rakdos, but I do like this against Control as well in the Enigmatic decks because it taxes Enigmatic Fires for 2 more mana before it comes into play. I think the Terra Thunders are a little iffy, and I feel very naked towards the Amalia combo. So I think like with like the Dromoka's command, Vanishing Verse, to get like a Crowan's War and Get Lost. I think we have a lot of like ways to deal with enchantments. So I think like to really target like the Amalia, which I think is really, really popular, at least in Explore. I don't know how popular Amalia is on Moto because I really haven't been playing that much on Moto because I've been kind of under the weather. I think this is how I felt last league. I really don't think I needed the Terra Thunders, just because of how versatile the removal was and white. So I think I'm gonna like try no Terra Thunders and then have 2 Knighted Dust Shadow just for the Amalia combo deck. Because since I don't have any Necromantia effects, I think this is where I kind of want to cover those bases here. So I think this is where I'd probably try, what I would try in the next league. So if you want to support the channel, please hit that follow button on Twitch. I'm trying to hit that 2K follower buttons on Twitch. 2K followers on Twitch. If you want to support the channel on YouTube, I'm trying to hit 1K subs and I'm very close to that too. Please hit that subscribe button. If you want more Abzan content, please write in the comments and let me know what you think. And hope to catch everyone next time. Take care. Also, if you have any closing thoughts on this kind of type of video format, I know this is a replay format, so the videos are going to be a lot shorter and everything. So if there's any feedback that you want to provide on this type of video style, please let me know. I really appreciate it. All right, everyone, take care, stay safe, stay healthy. Catch everybody next time. Bye.